In the cutthroat world of workday lunchtime, one man has got the market sliced, diced, and freshly chopped. This is the Architects of Business, Joe's weekly series of interviews with leading entrepreneurs. I'm Tadhg Enright, and today I'll be talking to Brian Lee, the man whose salad bars, freshly chopped, have transformed lunchboxes across the country. Brian, thanks a lot for coming in and talking to us. I'm sure you've heard this joke loads of times before. You've kind of broken one of Homer Simpson's golden rules. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I have a feeling I know what's coming.
Go on. You know it, don't you?
Is it a Starbucks one?
Well, it's that you don't make friends with salad.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. You've made a lot of friends with salad.
Made a lot of people happy with salad, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good line.
It is a good line. It is a good line. Why do you think you were kind of there at the crest of a wave, as it were, in terms of giving people a big, hearty salad for their lunch?
I think we were probably the market leader into this avenue. Like, I don't think there was anybody thinking Ireland was ready for healthy fast food at the time when we came around in 2012. There was no one else doing a full concept of healthy fast food. There was only people would have salad as a side in their dishes. They wouldn't focus on this being a whole hearty meal, and we were the pioneers in Ireland, I think, in bringing this to a concept where we feel a lot of people have now replicated what we're doing. Well, tried to replicate the concept, and that's just shown that the consumer, there is a demand there for this kind of product.
And when you point out you started in 2012, is that right? And
yeah, well, we started actually in researching back in 2011. But our first store opened in Baggot Street in May of 2012.
And then that's what, 6 years ago now?
6 years.
And how many stores have you got now?
We will, by the end of July, we will have 50 stores. So we're 48 stores, one opening in Patrick Street now this week. I
mean, is that kind of pace of growth? It's not something that other chains have replicated. I mean, is it scary, or was it that always what you'd hope to achieve?
Well, we definitely visioned us being this big. We didn't envision to go that fast so soon. Like, we didn't open a store for 2 years really after we opened the first store. So we wanted to make sure we had all the bases and all the systems and processes in place before we went on to open our second store. And then we did that in 2014, and then we opened our third store in 2015. And it was only at that time that we started hearing about international competitors that were in America and stuff looking to come into the Irish market. And we had two options. We had to look at VC to raise funding, or we were going to go on to the franchise model. So the one option was basically we taking an investor and we would lose control of the business. And in a certain way, I wanted to keep control. It was basically my baby. I wanted to look after it.
Yeah, of course.
And I wanted to see it grow. I was still working out how to make it grow as we were doing it. So the way we looked at it was, if we go the franchise route, we have the option of capturing the market as quick as possible. The brand will be the most well-known salad chain in Ireland, and that's what we looked at. Is said, how do we get first to market? Because that was the key to being success and getting there before everybody else was. We decided, then we drew up a plan. We need to open up on every high street there is worth opening up in Dublin, and then we need to open up in all the major shopping centres, and if possible Dublin Airport and universities. And within 12 months we've done all that.
I mean, that's an incredible story. I mean, an incredible pace of growth. Yeah. I mean, was there any point, I mean, from 3 stores in 2015 to 50 today, I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling on a certain level. Yeah, it is. Like,
to do 16 stores one year and 19 stores the next year, it was, and probably already 15 stores this year, it has been mind-boggling. But the hard work was done for 12 months before we even went doing that. We spent 12 months building this process of a franchise model that we can replicate and roll out and move on. But now we've come on to year 6, and it's always a good thing to refresh a brand every 5 years in a facelift. And not just that, we're always every year looking to recreate the menu as much as we can and bring in new products and innovate. We always want to be the leader, not the follower, when it comes to being innovation with healthy food.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I noticed about your first shop when I saw it on Baggot Street for the first time. I'd no sense that it was, a standalone or a startup. I mean, it just felt like some kind of international franchise had just landed in Ireland and was applying its know-how there. There was no sense that this was a guy or a couple of guys you know, making it up as they go along. Or I suppose that's not what it was it?
That's exactly what I wanted to achieve. So at the moment now, it's kind of gone back where people like the mom and pop kind of style cafe shop and store. But I wanted to envision this to go across Europe and maybe further and beyond. So I wanted to build it to look like a brand when it was just one store. So we could have opened up with brown paper bags, plain packaging and all that, but we hired an external design team to come in and help us build a brand, to build something that would look like a brand that came in from overseas, and it was bigger than it actually was. It wasn't just Brian and Andy that set up this one little store in Baggot Street. So before we ever had a menu, we created the look and feel of the brand, the logo, and we felt that was so important for the longevity of the brand, because we didn't ever see it as one store. So a lot of people set up one store and it goes well and they open another, and then they never have the vision that it's going to be bigger than it is. So you have to have the dreams that you're going to be great and not just good. You
had scale in your sights at the very beginning.
Yeah, my goal is always to go as big as possible and never to settle. As I was saying earlier there, an entrepreneur that likes the startup element of the business. So it's important for them to stay excited. And if you're just going to have one little store, you're never really going to be that excited about that store.
Can I ask you, how old are you now?
I'm starting to get to the age where I don't like telling them.
I'm
32.
32. I mean, there'll be people out there who are absolutely sickened at the sight of a 32-year-old with that much success. I mean, do you feel like you're young, or like you've gotten there ahead of your time?
Only when people say that to you, but I don't feel. I feel like I should be doing better than I am. I don't feel like I've achieved my goal at all. I'm not even close to it. So if I am 32 now, if I put another 10 years onto a 42, hopefully I'll be closer to where I want to be.
But there's people of your age won't be anywhere close to as far along the road as you've got.
Is there any right or wrong in that?
No, none at all. I'm just trying to get a sense of how you kind of gauge your own success.
Yeah, well, I don't gauge it against people my own age. I gauge it against people that are older than me and have done more than me, and I say to myself, right, there's my goal, there's my target, I need to shoot higher than I'm shooting. Because if I gauge it against people that aren't my age, I'm never going to grow. I have to go shoot higher than I'm going at the moment.
But some people, I guess, start measuring their professional career, as soon as they leave school or college, university or whatever. I guess because I've read up a bit about you, and you started much earlier than that. I mean, when do you kind of start to consider your beginnings in business were?
Well, looking back on it now, everybody says we're always an entrepreneur. I do believe we're all born the same, and then we create our journeys along the way. But for me, if I look back, I had my first business card at the age of 11, and only now that I have a son, he's nearly 2 in September, I start thinking, imagine he coming into me now with a business card at 11. I think it's great that I did that, but I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was just looking to earn a few bob.
Yeah.
And get out.
You're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, I was doing it for myself, and I think maybe I was being around my father, who works for himself in the building. I always got that mentality, and it was good. That's why I call Logan, my son, now my little apprentice.
It's a good approach. So what were you marketing yourself as an 11-year-old?
Myself and my friend, with 2 lawnmowers we went out and borrowed and bought money for. So we were just at the grass cutting game now, but I don't see many young lads at it these days.
No, they're too busy playing Xbox and stuff like that, aren't they?
We'll have to sort that out.
Yeah, well, there weren't as many distractions probably back then.
Yeah, well, that's it. So now instead of grass cutting, they're probably building software, so we won't say there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
They'd be millionaires before any of us.
And now you're selling chopped up growy things, or green things I should say.
Yeah.
I mean, how long did you keep up the grass cutting for? And I mean...
Yeah, so that was obviously every summer. It was only a thing as a kid. Job. There was something that just to keep my entrepreneurial spirits going when I was younger, and it was really when I was about 15 when I worked in the Spar shop, and I met Andy, my business partner now in Chopped, so know each other a good long time, and he's tried to flog me a phone cover, probably heard before, and I just said I could sell a few of these in the school and so on. We built a relationship, and we ended up importing a container load of these at 16 years of age, and we 50,000 phone covers sold before they even landed in Dublin. So they were kind of our first venture together, if I would say, and then we went on to open up a couple of convenience stores there before we ever did Chopped, and the idea came from those convenience stores for Chopped.
So you met Andy working in a Spar, and you started kind of formulating your ideas for your first business together.
Yeah,
there's not many people who working behind the counter in Spar.
Well,
take that.
I seen an opportunity. This was a Chinese lad to come in here. He couldn't sell them because his English wasn't good enough, and I was saying I can buy them for a certain price and sell them for more. It's not rocket science. It's nothing different than I'm doing now with Chopped. I'm buying products in and making a salad and selling it for a profit. It's the exact same.
At age 15, some people will be going down the canal side and drinking cans and things like that. I mean, was there any level of that in your childhood in the same way as it was for other people?
Of course there would be. I didn't have a canal,
but you were doing you were doing the same things.
I was doing every single thing everybody else was doing. But I had a great work ethic. Like, I really enjoyed working, and still to this day I love work. And I think that's important. If you don't like getting up in the morning and going to work, it's back to the Xbox. Back to the Xbox,
yeah. So you started out with a couple of, probably with one. Talk to me about your convenience store.
Yeah, so we had 2 convenience stores, and we actually had them even when we started Chopped. But it was actually from those convenience stores. I was still at the building game as a carpenter, and I invested into these stores, and I was a fitness fanatic. And myself and Andy, we used to meet up every second, third week in hotel lobbyways, trying to think of ideas. Can we use the Chinese link, bring stuff over, what we can do? For years we were doing this, trying to think of ideas on how to break it.
Yeah.
And I just said, I have this idea. I said, I wouldn't eat that muck that comes out of that deli. I wouldn't put it near me. I said 40% chicken fillets or whatever's in them. I said, I was in Australia, and I said, and the people over there are so health conscious. I said, it's only a matter of time before the Irish people start caring about what they put in their body. Now think about it, this is 6 years ago, the year of the chicken fillet roll, and basically people didn't really care what they put into their bodies. So you have a small pocket of people. So when we put calories on the menu, when we came up with the brand, people were like, whoa. And now 6 years on, that's not a big thing anymore.
It's a lot in some places, isn't it?
They want to know they want to know what's the breakdown of those calories, what's the macronutrients, and that just shows you the consumer now is becoming more educated every year and more health conscious, which is a great thing. Like, I see kids of 7-8 years of age in Chopped eating salads, even younger. The local priest, the postman. You wouldn't imagine that 6 years ago.
No, because salad wasn't what it was back then.
Yeah, well...
Or what it is.
Well, like, people weren't that health conscious. Never mind salads, but people weren't that health conscious, and now people are getting more educated, and they care about their bodies, and they care about how long they're going to live. But that wasn't on the agenda. You've got your battered Mars bars and deep fried this, and so everybody likes a treat now.
Yeah, and the breakfast roll man, is he gone away? Is he still knocking around?
Well, there'd be always a market for it, like, but I don't think it's a 5-day-a-week thing. Like, people can treat themselves once and twice a week, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's, if you're doing anything, it's in moderation.
Can I ask you about Andy? Because, you know, he's a chap you've known since you were 15, and you talked about, you know, working hard to try and find something really innovative together.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of your success is born out of the idea or that partnership, which is obviously a very strong one?
I think it's all down to the partnership. Like, the idea is one thing, but without the people, it's nothing. So I could have a million great ideas, but if I don't have the right people to make them work, they're not going anywhere. Like, myself and Andy built over 16 years, have built a great friendship, but also an understanding of what he's good at, what I'm good at, and we don't push work over to his desk, to my desk. That doesn't make sense. I know his area and what he's good at, and he sticks to that, and I know what I'm good at, and we both come together as a team and we make the final decisions on things. So you finally came up with this idea for Chopped, a chain of salad bars. What did you know though about the food industry before you got into it? I knew how to eat it. That's about it. That's about it. And that's the beauty about being an entrepreneur. You don't need to be expert in what you're going to do. You need to have a vision, a passion, and drive on where you want to go. But if I want to open up a totally different business, I don't need to know the business, but I need to have a vision, and I need to have a plan and how to execute it. I didn't know how to develop a culinary menu. I brought in Rory Moran, the Druid chef, to help me build that menu, and he put in lots of Irish flavours and how we were going to make this tailored to the Irish market. And that's what he was best at. Then when I went franchising, I brought in franchise experts. I never built a franchise model before, so I needed people to advise me and help me. So eventually we've built a team, and Chopped now, there's over 750 people now working for Chopped.
So what have been the biggest kind of eye-opening moments for you, the things or the obstacles that came along that you really weren't anticipating?
That's a hard one. It really is a hard one. Like I didn't see any obstacles. They were just challenges. I didn't see anything like that I couldn't do. And I always take a common sense approach to anything that I don't understand. I listen, I learn, and I take advice. But at the end of the day, most things you can be answered with a common sense approach. So I'm finding a few obstacles now at the moment, and they're more down to planning and different things like that. But that's a different game.
I mean, seeing as you weren't involved really in the food business before, how much did you really throw yourself into it? I mean, were you chopping salads yourself?
For 3 months, we opened Baggy Street. I chopped every lunch break behind the counter. I understood every single dish, every single recipe, every single product. I had to learn. Rory was very insistent that I needed to be involved, and he was right, because I needed to understand my own product. I needed to be involved on it. And now we're 6 years on, I know everything there is about our products and everything there is to do. Every menu decision that's ever made, I'm hands-on involved in with the chefs. So there wouldn't be anything signed off without me tasting it. So that's how involved I am on it.
And the more you grow, though, it must get a bit harder to be kind of in touch with the front line. I mean, there's lots of business leaders who do really make the time to kind of just get out there on the front line again and learn from the customers that the rest of their staff are speaking to every day. Is that an approach do you believe in as well? Yeah,
I do agree with it. It is very hard because we're on a massive expansion route at the moment. So, like, we have 2 stores opening in 2 weeks. So there's a lot of work that goes in behind all that to get them stores up and running. So for me to get to every single store there on the day they open and move things around, it is hard, but I make sure I get to every store. And the beauty about social media now is that you hear from the customers in rapid time if things aren't right. So that's the beauty. You're engaged with what's going on in the stores more than you've ever been. So before social media was ever involved, I would say you'd be on the road 24/7, driving to those stores, checking. Now I do have teams, quality insurance people, checking on these stores. But for me, I would be driving non-stop to all these stores or up in the length breadth of the country. Yeah. But with social media, you can tap into that on a daily basis. It's a mixed blessing, though, isn't it? Because I suppose, well, it lets you speak directly to your customers and hear directly from them. People are probably more motivated to post on social media when they've had a bad experience. There is, but you have to take that, the good with the bad, and you have to take it as it's something that you need to fix if there's these complaints coming in. So if you ignore them, you won't have a business there in the long run to look after. So if there is complaints coming through, you got to act on it and follow through on it. You're moving into the UK now, isn't that right? We're moving into the UK now, and we're going to launch our first store now in Manchester, Piccadilly Square, in August. So we're very excited about that. We've just signed on the dotted line this week. Yeah, I'm sure it's very exciting. And when you move into a new market like that, you must have to kind of create this whole... Because, I mean, you know, take McDonald's, for example. There's a whole ecosystem, a whole supply chain there that serves all these different McDonald's stores, many of which are franchises. And they have, you know, whole farms that are dedicated to just supplying stuff for them. What's it like trying to start that off with a blank canvas in a market like the UK? Well, we have to start all over again. So we just, as we are now, there is a lot of things that we can learn from what we've done here again. So we will have numerous new suppliers that we'll use over there. We're going to use local suppliers, local farmers, and local logistics. But there is a couple of products that we will be bringing over from Ireland because it's close quarters. So we've been 6 to 8 months now building up our supply chains before we open, building those relationships, cross-checking all the quality of the products. So there's a lot of work that goes in again behind the scenes before we get to actually open a store. And are you shaking up the format at all for the UK, or shaking up the menu? Yeah, so we've a new menu change coming now in September. So we're adding in hot proteins into all our counters going forward from September. So we will have hot chicken proteins can be added to your salads, and we're bringing in hot rice boxes and various different items. So the look feel going forward will be more towards our new Smithfield 2.0 look.
Right.
which is quite a relaxed environment. People like to go there and work, chill, and eat.
One of those third space places.
Well, they're a neighbour.
You had the market all to yourself here in Ireland when you started out. You haven't got it all to yourself in the UK. There's a few kind of, should we say, pretenders over there. What's going to be different about
I like that word.
the difference between you and what they do?
Well, you have to go with a few USPs. So our power here is being first to market, great product, great taste, and everybody knows our brand. So over there, we're coming not first to the market. So we now have to play catch up. So we have to show them our product is more superior than theirs. You're getting better value for money. And our chicken marinades will be a USP. Our dressings will be a USP. But ultimately, our theatre of food. So our chopping of salads, with the men's deal about, no one else does that.
Putting on a show for people.
It's a bit of showmanship if there, and I would save 3% on my labour cost if I cut that out of the line. But we wouldn't be chopped. We'd be a different concept. We'd be a normal salad bar, just assembling salads with pre-chopped ingredients, where I think the flavours come together when it is chopped in front of you and blends all those flavours together.
Absolutely. Brian, how does it feel now? What's it now? 7 years after you started working on this concept, to see the kind of the name above so many doors and that format being rolled out and being so popular. I mean, do you take time to think about what you've achieved so far?
Well, sometimes no, I don't. It is a proud moment when you drive from one end of the street to another and see 3 of your shops. But yeah, no, it's a proud moment. I don't take enough time to appreciate it, to be honest, and I probably should. I just probably head down, driving on to the next one.
Too focused on seeing 4 or 5 in the same stretch? Or?
Yeah, not that. I don't want to cannibalise it now.
Not that much, yeah.
No, but
yeah.
I need to appreciate it, and it's only when people actually say something to you that you take a moment and say, oh, yeah, we are doing something good.
Is there a risk with the franchise model? Putting your format into other people's hands.
So the risk for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
What is it?
Risks that they run it into the ground and they get a bad name for the brand and they don't follow operating standards and they don't do what you've told them to do, and you have an operations manual, they don't follow up to the letter to the law. Now the product will always be the same because they will use our supply chain, but there's a slight risk they would deviate and order a wrong product, but that can be noticed very quick. It's more about the human error and having the customer behind the counter or the manager in the store not run that store to the standard. So it's the game is on us to quality control check and keep doing our audits and keep in touch with our customers, because our customers let us know before we'll ever do any audit when there's something goes wrong.
The quality control must begin at the very beginning when you're approached or you speak to somebody about franchising it. I mean, what are the criteria that you're looking for? Well,
we never sell franchisees. We award them. So if anyone is looking for something, we have a list of people there, of 200 people who've inquired every month, and we look at them and we assess them. A, are they going to be an owner operator? B, have they got experience in this industry? So it was massive advantages. They've got a previous experience in operating in the field. If you're coming there, someone from a technology business and just would like this as a hobby kind of business for their wife, it's not really ideal for us. We're not at a stage where we have 1 or 2 stores and we're looking to expand. We're at a stage where we're 50 stores and we now want to cherry pick the key franchisees to take the remainder ones.
I mean, it's one of those things, you're looking for people who probably have the same kind of energy that you have yourself. But I mean, if somebody had the same energy as you have, they'd be doing it for themselves.
Well, I've got offered that question. I got asked that question a few times. Basically, why would I open one of your franchises and I can just do it myself? And I say, off you go. If it's that easy, everyone would do it. So it's not that easy. That's the question. And you're not investing into just a salad bar. You're investing into the brand, and that's what people really get involved in. And they're reliant on us to keep the brand innovative and moving forward, not to stay stale. So that's our job, is to stay on top of the game.
Yeah. Have there been any blips along the way where you kind of your plan was thrown off track?
No, there would have been 1 or 2 franchisees maybe that over the past I would have probably had a second guess. I don't think they were up to scratch and they don't care enough about the business. It was more of a side investment and maybe I shouldn't have took that. I've had 1 or 2 locations along the road I've made the wrong judgment on. I don't think they were right locations. And if I had to rethink them, I probably would have.
Are they still there? Are they still open?
Yeah, they're still open,
Yeah.
but like, just a different part of the road can make a big difference. Just around the corner can make a massive difference in this kind of business. So they were the earlier days. When you think about it, you're eager to get these franchises opened, stores open, we want to grow. But now, if you had the time and experience I have under my belt now, I would take a bit more time to analyse the location instead of being hungry for more stores.
And how do you deal with a franchisee that you later realise hasn't really got the right ingredients?
Well, you try and talk to them and see, can you come to an arrangement with them. And if it all depends on what the situation is. If they're running the store badly, you've got to operate the store to a certain standard. So you put in your manager. So within your franchise agreement, within 2 weeks, put in your manager, and you take over that store and run it to the standard. And that's where you got to protect yourself in your franchise agreement. If someone's running your store and running your brand into the ground, you got to take control of that ASAP. And but if someone is breaking other terms, not paying fees and those things, and there's no reason for not, you got to close them.
Have you done that?
Yeah, we've been close. We've been close, yeah.
Right.
So
thankfully, not that close.
No, and hopefully we don't. Everybody doesn't put us in that position.
What's it like doing business with you?
I would like to say I'm reasonable, unless something goes wrong. So if everything goes the way they're supposed to be, like, and everybody does what they said they're going to do, we're all reasonable. But if you're going to damage my brand, which I call my baby, well, I wouldn't like to.
You wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of that.
I wouldn't like to.
Have you got higher standards than most people, do you think?
You would have to be. You'd have to have higher standards of your own business. I would definitely have a higher standards than every one of my franchisees on what they would expect out of the business. But that's only normal, and I don't expect them to have the high standards. I expect them to buy into the brand and buy into the culture and buy into the future of what we're building.
So in the business world, you've got such high ambitions. Who are the business people out there that you really admire and that you're aspiring to replicate the success of?
Well, I don't aspire to replicate anyone's success. I'm on my own journey, that's for sure. I won't be looking to replicate anyone's. When I was growing up, I always followed Richard Branson's journey. I read his book. I know that's a high and fly name to say, but I did follow his story, and I found it admiring and very resemblant of some of the things in his younger days he did. And I took great encouragement from that, seeing that he started from nothing and got to where he is now. I started from nothing and got to where I am. I grew up in Cabarrick, a local council estate, and I'm only looking to go further than I have done at this stage. My father and his grandmother, they came from worse beginnings than I did. I always remember a story, my father telling me that his mother grew up in an orphanage, and she used to queue up at soup kitchens. Mm-hmm. So I just think about every generation's doing a little bit better than the one before, and that's all we can ask.
I mean, you're well on your way.
Yeah, and if it all goes belly up in the morning, I'll just get back on the horse and go again.
Yeah, and you've tried. I mean, you say that there's no entrepreneurs in particular that you're kind of aspiring to replicate the success of, but I mean, you're in the food sector, you're in the kind of primarily the lunchtime sector. I mean, what about McDonald's? What about Subway? Yeah,
ideally, I'd love to replicate what McDonald's done. Who wouldn't? And that's a long-term goal. Let's see, can we replicate what they have? We are in talks with a few people in China. Now, this is early talks at the moment, and if we cannot break into China, you can put 1,000 locations in China instead of 50, 60 stores in Ireland. So we are in secondary talks now with China.
And is that with a kind of a local investor, or?
It's actually with a few people that are involved in shopping centres at the moment. So that's as much as I can give you.
Would that involve you ceding some level of control?
Yes, it involved a JV.
Right, and is that something you're kind of minded to do, or because you were talking earlier about VC earlier?
As you know, Andy is Chinese, so he has told me you can't go into China without having someone on the ground.
Yeah,
he's well connected in there, and you cannot do business in China very well unless you have people on the ground connected
And if it's a difference between having 50 stores and maybe 100 in the next few years, or
I'd rather own 50% of 500 stores than 100% of one store.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with that.
Yeah, well, that's a long burner, so don't expect to see any headlines soon.
Okay. I mean, you've been talking a lot about your upbringing and how you were conditioned into doing what you've ended up doing. I mean, is a lot of it to do with your upbringing and people who've influenced you, or do you think is entrepreneurialism kind of in your genes, along with risk taking and the like?
This is a hard one. It's always debated at any kind of entrepreneur talks I've been at. It's one that's debated: are you born an entrepreneur, or can you become an entrepreneur? It's a hard one to say. I don't have the magic answer, but I do think it's a bit of your personality and it's a bit of who you are. But for me, I definitely feel it's been around my father and working from listening to his conversation when he's in work. From 5 or 6 years of age, every summer holiday I was brought to work with him. Was it sweeping the floor? But every conversation he had with every client, I was kind of around listening, and that obviously absorbed inside me, and for me wanting to do something myself.
What does he think of what you're doing now?
I think he's very proud. You know, parents, they don't like to express it too much, but I think they're very proud.
Yeah, no doubt. So you're part of a kind of a community now of successful entrepreneurs, the Entrepreneur of the Year alumni. What kind of strength do you find from talking to other entrepreneurs about their experiences? Yeah,
when I became part of the alumni in 2016, I found it was really beneficial when we went away to Boston, that there was no egos. Success didn't create egos, and that was reassuring, because people always say to me, you're still the same person you were when I knew you 10 years ago. And so why would I change? Well, because you're doing so well. But why would I change? Because I'm doing well. But that reassured me when I went away with those people, that they are all doing 10 times better than me and doing well for themselves, and they're still so humble. And it wasn't about measuring who was doing better and not, but it was really good to gain the knowledge and experience of the highs and lows of people's businesses, and build a network of people that are close, willing to help each other out. If like I'm in trouble in the morning, I know there's at least 20, 30, 50 people that I could reach out for help in the morning on my business and advice.
And now they're your friends.
Many of them have become very good friends, and I've now started to do business with 2 of them.
So you found a way of kind of using it as a launch pad for growth.
It's a network now where you can help each other out, advise, have fun, do business together. So we've just done business now where Trevor Annan of Mount Charles. So Trevor was a finalist last year. So we met in San Francisco on the DOE retreat, and within that year we've done an exclusive deal for Northern Ireland, and he's scheduled to open 6 or 8 chopped locations. So that's been a great outcome for me being involved in it.
Absolutely. You were talking about your own humility and that of the other entrepreneurs in the EOI scheme. Do you think is that a kind of a choice? Because success, or even the perception of success, it does change some people. Have you decided you want to really keep in touch with the person you've always been?
It does change people if they allow it to change them. Like I will always be the same person I am. Like you'll change to a certain degree. You become more smarter and educated, but your core values and who you are and who you've grown up, unless you don't like that person you grew up like I like who I am, and I don't feel I need to talk a certain way or be a certain way just because I do better in business. Like that's a bit fake, and it's not being true to who yourself is. So I enjoy the people I grew up with. I'm still friends to this day with them, and nothing will change.
Is that something that's...
Doesn't mean you can't have new friends.
Yeah, but is that something that's just important to you?
That's very important for me.
But do you think is it actually also helpful in building the type of thing you build? I think
to stay grounded as you're going through the motions in business is very important, because you can lose the run of yourself. You need to stay grounded. If you don't stay grounded, your business could go off in the wrong way. You're getting too excited about everything going well, and all of a sudden you could hit a pitfall. But you need to stay grounded and be prepared for all the different ups and downs that are on the way.
And family and friends keep us grounded as well, don't they? You're talking about
they definitely keep it grounded.
Your little apprentice.
Yeah.
I mean, how old is he now?
He's 20 months.
20 months.
Yeah.
I mean, how's life changed since he came along? And in terms of how much you get to spend, you get bags under your eyes.
See them wrinkles? They weren't there 20 months.
What's that, a lack of sleep or just kind of?
It's a bit of both. Yeah, no, he's a little devil. He's full of energy. So for me, it's changed my whole outlook now. The business now was more about making a success and being proud of something I built, and now it's like I want him to be proud of me. So it's kind of changed my perception. And that's true. I do want him to be proud of me, and so every father would.
But what about time management and staying in touch with him? Yeah,
that's the challenge, and especially at the young age where you build a bond with the child to go along. I find it, he's gone to bed at 8. I need to make sure most nights I'm home before he goes to bed and see him have a little play, and I can always go back to work at home as soon as he goes to bed if I need to. So I try my best where I could work till 8 to 10 at night, 9 at night. But now I'm trying to get home, play with him for an hour, do what I have to do, and give as much of my weekends as possible to him.
It's a very kind of regimented approach, which is a good thing, because lots of people talk about sacrificing their personal life for their business life. Is there?
You got to do a bit of that.
But are you sacrificing a little bit of the business day now to spend time with him?
I am, and he's worth it, every bit of it. No, I am. I'm sacrificing a bit purely because of what my own mother taught me, that you build a bond with the child when he's young, and I feel it's very important for me to give my child an hour before he goes to bed. Is that really sacrificing that much?
Yeah.
No. I said I can work an extra hour when he goes to bed instead of me staying at home. I don't want to get caught in the traffic or whatever. I try to plan my day around him now instead of plan the opposite way around work. Now, it doesn't work every day. If something that needs me to attend to, I will be at it.
So you got the job, you got the family life, and what about other pursuits? Like, it's fitness got you into this business. How do you find the time to maintain that?
Well, I do a lot of training in the gym as well, but I compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I compete out of SPG swords, and that's a competitive hobby for me. And I've just competed at the Irish Open. I did the Europeans last year. So if I need to have an outgoing outside of work, I need to have something to release. Otherwise, I won't sleep at night. I'll be thinking about work. So I need to have something to escape, and that's another priority I have in my life, that I will dedicate at least 1.5 hours every single day to training, except Sunday. But I will make sure I get 6 hours a weekend. That's all I need.
And good luck to anyone who tries to rob the shop.
Well, no comment.
Well, you've been through that already, haven't you? Was there an incident in the Spar?
You've done your research.
Go on, tell us about it.
I was only 16 then.
Yeah, but I just wonder, what happened? And I just wondered, did it have any kind of lingering impact?
I was just working on the till, and a guy came in, balaclava with a screwdriver up, and we asked us to open the till, and we ran down the back of the shop, and the manager came out and started wrestling him, and we gave him a few kicks, and that was that. He didn't get any money.
He didn't win.
He got a handful of cigarettes, and that was it. But that was a long time ago. Definitely done your research.
I know. Well, sure. What can I say? I've got a fantastic team working with us as well. I mean, does that change your approach or anything like that? Is that a kind of a formative?
When you grow up in a working class area, like, you're used to these kind of things, and that's staying grounded and staying humble. It's not something that should fear you open a business of something like that happening. That you just have to say, these are things that happen. God forbid they ever happen to you, and the beauty is no one gets hurt. And that's the main thing. Like, if anyone ever came into one of my shops, I would expect one of my staff to open the till and give them what they have, unless I'm around.
Very good. Okay. So listen, what does the next few years look like, do you think?
We're opened up in Cyprus now. We've got 2 more stores that we're looking down at the moment in Cyprus, but we're looking at other international countries to do partnership with. So we want to open up international franchise in every country in Europe if we can, and further afield. So I've been in Dubai, in meetings in Dubai for Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. So if I can get any of these leads to blossom now, I'll be very happy.
Do you have a timetable in mind, or kind of like a series of milestones you're trying to hit?
With the international expansion, I was hoping within 2 years now we would start opening up into new countries, and that's the focus for international. With the UK model, now we will be going franchising from the end of this year to open up, start exactly what we've done in Ireland, from franchising all next year. So we're opening 3 company-owned stores ourselves, Manchester and London, and then we will franchise out from them stores.
Where have you found the doors kind of most open, or the most obstacles thrown in your way in terms of pushing into other markets?
Dublin. no, there's not really any obstacles out there for us. The likes of, we explored Scotland with a few companies as well. I feel that they are a little bit not ready for chopped, and so we've taken a step back on it, and we've focused more on the south of England. But you only know this when you go there and you walk the streets and you study the market. I don't feel that they're ready for it as a mass market. Ugh.
Just call it a Mars market.
Yeah,
I think that's what they're famous for up there, isn't it? Deep fried Mars bars.
Yeah. I don't think Scotland is ready for it as you're going to put 20 stores there.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2 key locations it will work, but the supply chain, then you have to think about coming from the south of England to supply 2 stores. Is it worth opening 2 stores? So there's a lot of things to think about. It's not just to open 2 stores.
And what about the product itself, what Chopped does? You were mentioning the rice pots which are creeping in. That sounds suspiciously like carbs.
Carbs are good as well.
Carbs are good, I know. But
I know you like a carb or 2.
You'd be right there, yeah. But I mean,
carbs are good. It's all about, like I was saying earlier, what are the good carbs or bad carbs?
Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with carbs. I eat carbs every single day. I'm not one of those people that have paleo, don't do carbs. I love my carbs.
And what do you think about the people who come in and they are still looking for kind of absolutely zero tolerance on carbs?
Well, that's the beauty of Chopped. It's a freedom of choice to the customer. You've got over 100 ingredients. They can choose whatever they like. I think there was some mathematician done it out there. You can have over 1 million combinations in Chopped. So there you go. That's the answer for them.
Carbs and otherwise. Lovely stuff. Brian, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck with it all. Thank you very much for joining us today on The Architects of Business. Special thanks to our inspiring guest Brian Lee, our producer Patrick Hohey, and all of the production team here at Joe. Our programme is made in partnership with EY Entrepreneur of the Year. You can go to their website JOE.ie to learn more about the finalists for this year. And don't forget, you don't have to miss out on past or indeed future shows of The Architects of Business. You can subscribe for free on iTunes, on your favourite Android podcast app, or you can indeed watch the show on YouTube. While you're at it, make sure you check out some of Joe's other podcasts, including The Hard Yards on Rugby, the GAA Hour, and our movie show, The Big Review Ski. I'm Tadhg Enright. Thank you very much for being with us today. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.